Hi, this is Irv Pro with the Dr. Vax channel, and I am here today to tell you about a hidden treasure, a software product that's been around completely free for the last 5 years, but is really not discussed very much in the hobbyist 3D printing community. It's a software product that can allow my vision for 3D printing to really be possible. I believe that if you can use an inkjet printer, you should be able to use a 3D printer. It should be that easy. This software product, which is a combination of design software, a slicer that converts your models into something you can print, and control software for 3D printers, allows you to just plug your 3D printer into a USB port on your computer and use it in many ways like you'd use an inkjet printer. So stay tuned and let's learn something new. We're going to learn about version 2 of this software product together. Let me interject here with a quick viewer guide. This is a relatively long video. So you will see, as you're seeing in the corner now, you will see a table of contents that will allow you to navigate to various parts of the video quickly. Thanks for watching. Use the table of contents to go to the areas you're interested in. I'd encourage you, if possible, to watch the full video because there are various tips and ideas throughout all of the commentary. Okay, let's get started. The software we're going to talk about is MatterControl version 2 that was recently just released a few weeks ago from MatterHackers. Now, MatterHackers is a very interesting company. Their mission in life is to, I'm reading it right off their website, to turn the ideas they have into the things they use, to allow people to make things. My mission with the Dr. Vax channel is to introduce the skills and technologies to people of all ages and to say to them that these technologies are accessible to you. As part of doing that, I needed to find a software component that works with 3D printers and makes it as seamless as printing to an inkjet printer. I believe that with MatterControl version 2, I found that. So we're going to do a unboxing in essence. We're going to install the software onto a computer, and then I'm going to walk you through the software and show you how easy it is to use and where it has the capabilities of the better known slicers, Cura, Slick 3R, Prusa edition or the regular edition, Simplify 3D, and where it's not quite as sophisticated, perhaps as a trade-off today for ease of use. So let's turn to the computer and get started. I'm going to start on the home page and then go to Store and move over to where it says Software and Add-ons. Then I'm going to click on MatterControl 3D software. You'll see it's available for both Windows and Mac. I would highly recommend you download the version 2 software. The version 2 software specifically has some very interesting 3D modeling tools. You could think about it as an earlier version of Tinkercad, but with a bit more sophistication because it has a model history that's a bit like parametric modeling. I'll explain what I mean. So I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to click Download 2.0. I'll show you the installation on Mac, but I'll also talk through the installation briefly on a PC so that you can see the best of both. So we're going to click on Download. In the case of a Mac, that's going to download it right here. I'm going to say Show in Finder. And then I'm going to just double click on the file that it's downloaded. And that will open up the software installation. On a Mac, software installation consists of dragging your application to the application folder. I'll do that here. I'll wait for it to copy it over. And we are ready to go. Now on a PC, the first procedure is you download the software in the same way. Then you click on the exe file, which is used to start the installation. And then you'll see a series of screens which you will click through. There is the agreement screen, followed by the select destination screen. We're going to take all the defaults, followed by the option to add it to the start menu. Once again, we're going to take the defaults. We do want it to create a shortcut, and this is very important. You need to select the option to install the serial port drivers. On a Windows-based machine, treating a USB as a serial port is not standard, so you have to install drivers. Once you've done that, you'll be given the option to click on Install. We're going to go ahead and install the software. You will receive a warning message making sure that you agree to install a device driver. You want to click on Install, then you'll click on Finish, and you'll be ready to start the program. Now that we've started the application, let's take a look at how to use it. First as a slicer, because that's a traditional use, converting a 3D object into something we can print. Then as a printer control program, and finally as a design tool, something that's very unusual to have combined in one tool. So let's get started. When it opens up to the screen, you'll see there are 4 tabs across the top. There's one for the store. We're going to skip that for now. One for the library, and that will give you access to all of the prints that you've stored, either locally or in the cloud. Along with your MatterControl application, you do get a certain amount of cloud storage. The next is for hardware. We don't have a printer defined, and the next is a new design. Since we'd like to use this with a particular printer, we're going to close the new design tag, go to the printer or the hardware tab, press the plus, and set up a printer. I'm going to set this up for a Monoprice Select Mini. So let me scroll down here to Monoprice. Select here, I have a Select Mini version 2. That name seems fine. So we're going to click Next. Now it's telling me that I should disconnect my printer. I should then press Continue. And now I should power on my printer and connect it. I'll go ahead and do that. And now we'll click the Connect button. And we'll see that it immediately connected to the printer without difficulty. This program is very well crafted, clearly well tested. I think it's a very good match for entry-level printers, such as a couple of the Monoprice printers and a couple of the Creality Ender printers. So now we'll see that our print bed is displayed down here. We can use the scroll wheel to zoom in or zoom out on our mouse. We can use the right mouse button to change the orientation. We can click on Home to reset to a view. If I click on a particular view, double click on the front, double click in the middle on the top. When I click on the blue bars on the sides or the angles, I'll move in that direction. We could click on the side, and we can go back to the top view. Now, the typical use for a slicer is to take a model that you've gotten off of Thingiverse or some other location. So we're going to click on the Open Files dialog here. And I'm going to take a model that I've gotten from some other location. Let's say Simple Animals, the cow. And I'm going to drag that to my work plane. Now you'll see this is slightly big. If I hold the Shift key, it will scale it uniformly, which is what I'd want to do because this has to fit together. Now I can move it to the middle of my work surface. If I put it on the work surface and I have not scaled it properly, then when I go to slice the model or convert it for 3D printing, it will not do anything. One other thing that's very, very interesting. You'll notice my copy of MatterControl has a white background. There's a little icon on the bottom right called Theme. By default, it comes up, I believe, in Classic Dark. I happen to be old-fashioned. I know dark backgrounds are in vogue right now. I prefer light white. So we have our printer selected. I can verify that because that's the name on this tab. I can now click on Slice. This is going to use the defaults, and it sliced our model or converted it. I can look at the individual layers just as I would in any other tool. This is a relatively small model. It's a very flat surface. If I click on this icon here, I can go to a 2D view, which I prefer, and then I can see how it's going to paint any individual layer of the model. And here's where the magic happens. When I am ready, I can go ahead and click on the down arrow here, verify my layer thickness, my fill, and I can now click on Setup to select my material. So I'm going to select PLA, and now I can click on Print to start printing. You'll notice there was an option there to load filament. It will extrude filament for you in order to load it. Now during this whole time, it will show me what's occurring here on the screen as it works on the printer. It will show me the progress over here. Right now it's heating the bed. There's also some other very interesting information. You can see that this print will cost 17 cents. It will use about 3 meters of filament, and it will take 44 minutes. At any point, I could cancel the print, and I could start over. Let's see what would be another. Let's look at a Benchy. I could load that, drag that into my surface here, click Slice. This will take 1 hour and 3 minutes. In order to print this, I could look at the individual layers once again over here. This will give us a more meaningful layer display. So in that way, it's very much like a regular any other slicer you've used. Let's look at some of the slicer parameters. If I click on the tab on the right, I can see the individual areas that I can control on the slicer. You'll see very similar parameters to any other slicer. It does support a range of adhesion capabilities. It does support the auto generation of supports and all of the typical retraction parameters. Under support, it has some very nice capabilities such as air gap, which give you the ability to ensure your supports are easier to remove. Overall, I would say that this slicer is more than adequate for someone starting in the field. There are also the abilities to manually control your printer. And one of the things that's very interesting is that you can adjust your Z offset. That is, in essence, how close your print head is to the print surface while the print is running. So you can do micro adjustments of your Z offset while the print is running. The display while the print is running is very, very good. You can also adjust temperature. So many of the things you would do from the front panel of a printer or from OptiPrint, you can do here while the print is running. You do have complete capabilities for defining what G code is used, what codes are sent to the printer before the print, after the print. And then the other thing that's very interesting is it has a software bed leveling capability. So by taking manual measurements Using this as a tool, you can store those in this application and it will adjust print bed measurements dynamically in order to ensure it's able to get a good layer on your printer. That's a very, very unusual capability. So that's basically it for the slicer capabilities. I would grade it as a good, solid slicer, good for many typical prints, but not the most advanced slicer in the industry. Now, let's look at one other capability that is absolutely unique to this integrated tool. We've already seen that you can use it to slice a print. We've already seen you can use it to control a printer. That makes it much easier than having to have multiple tools. Well, you also can use it to create your prints. It has a Tinkercad-like capability where you can drag a primitive object onto the work surface. You can change its dimensions either by typing in numbers, let's make this 10, or by clicking directly on the corners and dragging it one way or the other. You have all of the capabilities for rotating an object. And in that regard, it's very much like Tinkercad. What is fundamentally different and very intriguing, it feels like it's only partially fleshed out, is you do get a history. You'll see here it says cube. So let's say I needed to make a particular part. Let's say this is going to be some type of shaft. We'll make this a diameter of 10. We'll make it a little bit taller. I'm going to drag it onto here. You'll see the cylinder and the cube are listed under the workspace. And I can select them by clicking on their names. That's also a bit like a parametric environment. Now, if I select the two of them, the icon over here allows me to align it. I can click on Align and then say I want to align them centered and align them on the bottom, or align the Z on the top. And now they're glued together. Now, in order to use that with another function, I have to flatten it. That will leave it properly aligned, but it will remove the function from the parameter list. Why do I need to do that? Because perhaps I want to use this in a Boolean operation. So let's actually go and group these back together again. I can do that with the group function over here. So now there'll be one object. And let's say I want to make a hole all the way through this in order to put a bolt through it. So let's drag another cylinder on here. Let's make this a diameter of 5. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's change the color just so we can see it a little easier. How about this color here? I'm going to drag it more or less into this area, but then I'm going to select everything. I'm going to align. I'm going to align it, center it that way. I'm going to center it that way. I want to actually not center it on the Z. I'm going to leave that alone. If I go to make a modification now, it's all collapsed together. So I have to flatten it. Then I can select an individual element. I'm going to push that down. So now it's moving through it. Now I'm going to select this, this, and this, all three elements. And then I can apply Boolean operators. I can combine it together into a single operation element. I can subtract one or more of these elements from the others. I can say, show me only the places where these individual objects intersect. Or I can do subtract and replace, which I have not experimented with yet, so I'm not sure exactly what that does. We're going to do a subtract. And I'm going to subtract the cylinder from the group. Click on Update. it will show you over here what it's doing, and we now have a hole through our object. Now you'll see now also that the subtract function is in my history. So that means this is now glued together until I go to subtract and flatten it. And now these individual components could be selected individually once again. Once I have a component like this, I can save it under a given name to either my local computer, or I can save it to, which would be the local library, or I can save it up to the cloud, which is web storage provided by MatterControl. So this is a very, very interesting program in summary. It has the ability to slice objects. We'll actually take and slice this object now. Once an object is sliced, it has the ability to control a printer. I can click on print here, start print, and that object will now be printed. And it has the object to do modeling right within the program. Finally, a couple other capabilities that are very interesting. You can load in G code that's sliced on another slicer and still use the print capability. You can load in STL files designed in another design environment and slice them and then print them. Or, as we've just shown, you can take and create an object from scratch and take and model it, slice it, and print it. Okay, let me summarize what we've learned together. MatterControl as a slicer is solid. It is not the most sophisticated slicer. It will not evolve as rapidly as a sophisticated slicer. However, MatterControl as a software product is unique. I believe it's the Microsoft Office of the 3D printing world. I believe that MatterControl should be the first software product someone uses for 3D printing. This vase was modeled in MatterControl. It was sliced in vase mode in MatterControl. It was printed over a USB cable from MatterControl. That is a unique capability. And I believe because of that, it's a wonderful way for someone to get started with 3D printing. So if you enjoyed this video, download MatterControl. Give it a try. Leave comments. Let's begin a dialogue. I use multiple slicers, multiple software products. Let's talk about it together. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it with other people, and most importantly, let's continue to learn things together.